In the world of mortgage lending, what's the real measure of success? Is it just about the bottom line, the biggest commission check, or is it something more? Today, we're diving into a major career move that asks that exact question. And you know what? The answer might just change how we look at the entire industry.
This quote from Greg Shear at NFM Lending, it really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. He's drawing a line in the sand between a paycheck and a real payoff. And understanding that difference is the absolute key to figuring out why one of the industry's heaviest hitters just made a move that has everybody talking.
So how does a big company even find someone who puts impact before income? Well, you're not going to find the answer on a resume or in some spreadsheet. Turns out, for NFM Lending, it all came down to a dinner conversation where one single story told them everything they needed to know.
Yeah, when NFM's leadership sat down with Phil Crescenzo, they weren't just looking at his insane performance numbers. What really sealed the deal, what made them say, "This is our guy," was a story he told them about a client. A story that got right to the core of why he does what he does.
Okay, so here's the story that made all the difference. Picture this, a single dad fighting for custody of his kid, and the whole thing hinges on whether he can provide a stable home. Crescenzo steps in and, against all odds, gets him that home loan. And the result? The father wins custody. I mean, wow, this wasn't just closing a deal, this was literally changing a family's entire future. It's a story that reportedly brought tears to the eyes of NFM's managing director.
All right, so who is this professional at the center of all this? And what's this big move that has the industry buzzing? Let's get right to it and introduce you to Phil Crescenzo Jr. And here's the big news. Phil Crescenzo Jr., a top-tier loan officer, is the newest star player on the NFM Lending team. And get this, the whole thing came together super fast. It was described as a spur-of-the-moment decision after he met NFM's president, Latasha Wadi, at an industry event. Sometimes, when you just know. And you can see right here why it was such a perfect fit. From Crescenzo's side, he saw NFM's adoptable leadership and their killer tech and knew they could help him build his vision. And for NFM, they saw his focus on impact, his drive, and his huge ambition to serve the community. It was a total alignment of values.
But let's be crystal clear here. This whole focus on impact isn't just some feel-good story. It is backed by some seriously impressive numbers. Let's take a look.
In just the last 12 months, Phil Crescenzo closed over $107 million in loans. Just to put that into perspective, that is a massive number that puts him in the absolute top tier of loan officers anywhere in the country. He's not just making an impact, he's a powerhouse producer.
And that huge volume? It wasn't built on a handful of giant deals. Nope. It came from 323 separate loans. That's 323 families, 323 lives changed, one at a time. It just speaks to his unbelievable consistency and his hustle.
He's also a specialist. A whopping 70% of his business comes from FHA and VA loans. And if you're not familiar, these are the loans that open the door to homeownership for first-time buyers and for our military veterans, folks who often need a real expert in their corner. And this is so important. His work is deeply connected to his community. He has a very specific focus on serving African-American borrowers, showing a real commitment to building generational wealth and creating opportunity where it matters most.
Now, Crescenzo's hiring didn't just happen in a bubble. You have to understand, this is just the latest move in a much bigger, much more deliberate game plan that NFM Lending is rolling out.
To really get how big of a deal this is, you got to see that NFM is playing offense right now. They're making smart, strategic moves to grow their footprint and their power in a super competitive market.
Just look at the last few months. It paints a really clear picture, doesn't it? In November, they acquire another mortgage company. In January, they promote a new president. And now, they bring in a top producer like Crescenzo. This is a pattern, and it spells aggressive, strategic growth.
And the results? Well, they speak for themselves. NFM is the 47th largest lender in the whole country. They did over $7 billion, that's billion with a B, in loans last year. And get this, in a really tough market, they still managed to grow by 10% year over year. That's not just playing, that's winning. So what's the end game here? What's next? NFM didn't just hire an amazing loan officer. They truly believe they've invested in a future leader who's going to take their entire mission to a whole new level. NFM's leadership is not thinking small. They've set an incredibly ambitious goal. They see Phil Crescenzo leading a billion-dollar group. I mean, let that sink in. This isn't about just closing more loans. This is about building an empire of impact. And as they said, that journey starts right now.
And this isn't just talk. There's a real plan. They're going to use all of NFM's resources, their huge product line, their custom technology, to help Crescenzo scale up his operation from a top branch into an entire division with him at the helm.
And all of this brings us to one last really fascinating question. In a business world that is so often obsessed with the bottom line, could this be a sign that things are changing? Is focusing on real human impact not just a nice thing to do, but maybe, just maybe, the most powerful way to build a billion-dollar business? It's a huge question that this move by NFM and Phil Crescenzo is forcing all of us to think about.